If you would like to tell a story, by the way, you're more than welcome to come and share an anecdote, something bizarre that might have happened in your past that people just wouldn't believe to be a true story. If you'd like to come and share, just let me know. I'll shoot it for you. Storytelling is, I think, something that we've lost the art of doing. Tribes back in the Neolithic times and prehistoric times, they didn't have TV. They would get themselves some dinner sorted out. Usually Dad would go off hunting, that kind of thing, and come back with a bison or something like that. And while it was roasting on the fire, they didn't have EastEnders to watch or anything like that. They would tell each other stories. So I think it's a lost art form, and I'm hoping to bring it back. Maybe not the bison thing, but definitely the storytelling. So let's go back to 1991. It was a good year for me. I was very busy with work, and I was with this girl called Luby. That was her nickname. Well, I think she's still called Luby, although if she watches any of these, she might change her name. But anyway, I digress. We were having a family party. Now, Luby's family were a large, extended East End family that had sort of moved out into the suburbs, which a lot of East End families did back in the day. And they were kind of all based and grew up in the Commercial Road area of London, in the East End. And if you know the Commercial Road, it's a very long road. Used to have a lot of businesses on it a few years ago, but then before that, there were a lot of houses, dwellings on it. Usually sort of little two up, two downs with large extended families in them. And it was from one of these that this family came from. There were still three of the family members living in the East End of London that hadn't, up sticks and left. And that was Uncle Albert, Auntie Violet, and Auntie Betty. And we were celebrating, I think it was Uncle Albert's birthday. He was 70 something, I can't remember exactly. But it was his birthday, and we were going to have a feast, basically, get everyone over, the entire extended family, as many as we could reach, and we were just going to have a huge feast in this house in Surrey. So, the three of them had arrived in a cab. They came in their finery. I remember Uncle Albert. He was such a cool guy. 70 something, as I said, but immaculate grey hair. He always looked like he had a slight tan. He'd been somewhere warm and exciting, and had just been there long enough to get a slight tan. A little bit lighter than me, actually. And I remember what he was wearing on the day. He was wearing a red jumper, a white shirt underneath with a crisp collar, unlike mine, and blue jeans. That they weren't sort of too baggy. They weren't too tight. They were just right, and white plimsolls. And he just looked so cool. He really did. And his wife, Auntie Betty, she could have been a film star back in the day. She really was sort of a little bit on the glamorous side. Very petite, very feminine, very quietly spoken, lovely big blue eyes. And her hair was also always sort of immaculate. She'd always had had it curled and rinsed. She had a bit of a blue rinse going on. And her outfits were, she was always in some sort of matching two-piece, or definitely coordinated, and very well turned out, the two of them. And then there was Auntie Violet, who was Auntie Betty's sister. Actually, Betty's sister, Violet. Violet was a different kettle of fish altogether. I describe her as a sturdy woman, definitely a sturdy woman, about 6'1", 6'2", maybe, quite broad-shouldered. She wasn't softly spoken. She could be quite gruff. You could certainly hear her over everyone else talking. But the cheekiest smile you could imagine on an older lady. Really cheeky smile, and just devilment behind the eyes, mischief. So that was the three of them. They arrived, and they were going to be part of sort of getting ready and what have you. If they're going to get a cab down and stay over and what have you. It's only, right that they arrive a little bit early. It's their day. So we decided to get everything sorted out, get the house ready, get the food prepared, and Luby and her mum were taking care of the lounge and the patio area so that there was enough seating and everything was tidy. And I was given the task of assisting Auntie Violet with gutting 3 large salmon and preparing them. So they had to be descaled and gutted. Now, I'd never done this before, but I kind of had an inkling that this wasn't going to be a pleasant job. But someone had to do it, so I was quite happy to volunteer my services to Auntie Violet and give her a hand in the kitchen. Now, as part of getting the lounge ready, we had one other thing to take care of, and that was my pet budgerigar, Monty, had to be moved from the lounge so that we could hoover around and not scare the living bejesus out of him. So I took him in his cage into the kitchen and put him on a work surface, just sort of out of the way, so he wasn't near the food. But he could see what was going on and sort of chirp in now and again. So there's the 3 of us in the kitchen. Auntie Violet and myself at the sink with these 3 massive salmon, and Monty behind us off to the left, looking over proceedings. So we start scaling away, and Auntie Violet sort of said, "Have you ever done this before, Rick?" And I said, "Well, no, but I'm willing." She said, "Well, it's all right, love. Just watch me and do as I do, and if you've got any questions, just ask." So I said, "Well, fine." So I got the right knife and what have you, and started to copy her while she was scaling her fish. I started scaling mine. It was slipping about. It's quite big salmon, that sort of big. This isn't a fisherman's tail. This was generally that sort of big, that sort of size. So hanging on to that in a sink with water running as well. It's not easy, I tell you. Try it. So we're scaling away, and she's sort of excited about the evening, and she's in a great mood. We've got the door, the back kitchen door, which led into the garden. We've got that slightly ajar, and summer breezes sort of coming in, and it's all lovely. We're looking out onto the garden and just chatting. And we're sort of halfway through the fish, and she's started gutting hers already, and the smell. I hadn't quite got there yet. And she said, "Oh yeah, we'll finish this fish and then we'll have a cup of tea, have a bit of a break, have a cup of tea, because I'm feeling a bit windy anyway." So I thought, well, okay, yeah, a cup of tea would be nice. She did like my tea. I am good at making tea, by the way. So if I'm ever in your presence and you want a cup of tea, I'm your man. So I thought, yeah, we'll finish this fish and then we'll have a cup of tea. So I carry on scaling. She's sort of gutting stuff and throwing things down the food processing bit in the sink. I can't remember what it's called. Waste disposal. There you go. So she's throwing it down the waste disposal, and that's when it happened. That's when Auntie Violet passed wind. Now, you're thinking, oh, well, this is just another fart story. Well, no, it's not. And the reason it's not is because after all these years, I still remember it as quite a shocking and momentous event. So I'm going to do my best to explain to you what happened hereafter. Now, in the world, we have ways of measuring quite sort of important events like earthquakes, for example, environmental catastrophes. Earthquakes, we will use the Richter scale to measure an earthquake. I mean, if you speak to anyone in Italy or on the San Andreas Fault or in Japan, and you mention the Richter scale and you give them some numbers like 7.2 or 8.5, they know exactly what you're talking about, okay? There's no doubt in their mind. You have a common language and you know what it is that's happened. And the scale, more to the point, of what's happened. Let's pick another environmental issue, Chernobyl. We have the Geiger counter, where we can measure radiation. The Geiger counter tells you how many parts per million there are in the atmosphere of radioactive particles. So it's not guesswork. It's not sort of like, oh, I think it could be a bit radioactive here, Dimitri. What do you think? Yes, okay, you could be right. I don't know. Uh, they know. They show each other the figures, and they know we need to get out of here, and we need to tell someone quick. And that area is still cordoned off to this day. There's a 30-mile exclusion zone all the way around it, and there will be for hundreds of years to come. So we have as human beings, we have these methods of measuring these environmental situations, but we don't have one for the passing of wind. This type of event is purely left to people's interpretation, to subjective opinion, and it becomes a matter of, oh, it can't have been that bad. You don't really trust the information that you're getting, and you don't really understand the magnitude of what's happened. So I'm going to try, and I've put together a little scale. It's a 3-point scale. You know, it's a work in progress. You can add to it and embellish on it, and obviously, you know, the more input, the better. But I'm going to start with the first type of passing of wind, which I'm going to call the Dizzy Gillespie. Now, the Dizzy Gillespie occurs when the person who is breaking wind, I tell you what, let's get a shorter name for that. Let's call them the breaker from here on. So the Dizzy Gillespie is when the breaker realizes what's going to happen, takes extraordinary, lower bow measures to circumvent this event, and does his or her level best for containment. Okay, it's a supreme effort, and their whole body is involved in this type of containment. But because the pressure is so great, you end up with the Dizzy Gillespie. There is a containment breach, but it's a very small containment breach, hence the pitch and sometimes velocity of it. Then the second one I'm going to call the sad trombone. Okay. Now the sad trombone is probably the one that we're most familiar with, and the sad trombone has a big difference when it comes to how other people feel about it. The sad trombone is something that we can identify with. It shows us our humanity. We identify humanity in someone else with a sad trombone. I'll give you an example. I went to Wimbledon quite a few years back, and there was a tennis player I was watching on court number 3, because I couldn't afford the expensive tickets. So I was on court number 3 with some friends, and we were watching a guy called Mats Wilander playing someone. I can't even remember who he was playing, but there was someone else there. I didn't really know who Mats Wilander was. I knew he was a Swede. I knew he wasn't Björn Borg. But, the sun was shining, and the seats were quite close to the court, so I was up for enjoying myself. And there was a rally, and it was going on for quite some time, and there was lots of toing and froing, and people were kind of getting engaged, but still not quite. And then all of a sudden, Mats's opponent delivered a drop shot, and Mats Wilander ran to the net, slid on one leg, and held out his racket. And just before he was able to volley, he let out a sad trombone. Now, you can see how that happened, okay? Because at the point of getting to the net, the sort of juxtaposition between do I continue with containment or do I go for the point became just too much of an issue. So something had to give. And at that point, it was the gas within. So this sad trombone rang out on court number 3 in the silence, just after the sliding. So it was sort of like and we laughed. It wasn't we didn't burst out laughing. It was a kind of like a swell of laughter. And what happened was, he raised his racket as if to apologise. I think he was trying to waft it away, but then realised that it's not a solid thing. It's just strung. So he put it down and walked back to the centre line. But this act of the sad trombone on the tennis court endeared him to us. We found his humanity and we identified with him. And from that moment on, we were rooting for Mats Wilander. We really were. So don't underestimate the power of the sad trombone. It's something that makes us laugh. And we don't laugh at the person who's delivered the sad trombone. We laugh with them, okay? Because that could be us, okay? With the Dizzy Gillespie, we kind of laugh at them, you know? Sort of, oh dear. You want to get to the toilet or the bathroom as quickly as you can, or if that's not free, then, you know, the forest. But the sad trombone, no, we identify with that. And then there's a third one, which is far more worrying, and that is, I'm afraid to say, the angry tuba. Now, the angry tuba, we're all familiar with it. You may sit there and say, oh no, not me, not me. Don't lie to yourself, don't lie to me. We're all familiar with the angry tuba. And the thing about the angry tuba is that there is no intent of containment at all. The Dizzy Gillespie is containment above anything. The sad trombone is that sort of like, oh, it's crept up on me. I'm trying to contain it, but I'm failing miserably. You know, like you see people running to the tube when the doors close and they just get up to the front and they're like, oh, then they walk away. We've all done that. Sad tuba. But the angry tuba, there is no hint of wanting to contain it at all. It's actually released before it's even released, you know. And the angry, we've all done the angry tuba. We all played the angry tuba, but on our own. Okay, and this is the key difference between the angry tuba, the sad trombone, and the Dizzy Gillespie, is that the angry tuba has no social conscience whatsoever. Okay, and that's why we're always on our own when we experience the angry tuba, and it can be quite a violent thing, and quite distressing. And maybe, like me, in the few moments afterwards, you've lost a little bit of self-respect there, just for a moment or two, because that's how socially unsettling it can be. And it's certainly not something that you do in company. Even in a relationship, you know, it's a real relationship test of the angry tuba. I mean, you have to seriously be in love if you're going to do the angry tuba in front of your partner. Okay, just putting that out there. So when the angry tuba happens, it's not something that you can expect to be in the company of others for. Okay, you are invariably on your own. Once you have experienced the angry tuba coming from your own body, you instinctively check, make sure there's no one else around. That's your first instinct. And the second one is that lack of self-esteem, self-respect. You know, sort of, oh, is that really me? Oh dear. And it just shows the incredible power of the human body. So it's important for me to say at this point that Auntie Violet had delivered an angry tuba. I staggered backwards. I dropped the knife, the scaling knife, let go of the fish, and I staggered backwards. I couldn't be polite at that point. I just needed to save myself. I was torn between the bodily instinct of breathing, which we don't think about, we take that for granted. I was torn between wanting to breathe, okay, and my head telling me, whatever you do, don't breathe. And this internal struggle was literally knocking me off my feet. And my spasms, my muscle spasms in my chest were so strong. I was sort of heaving inwards and outwards, but not taking any air in, and it was causing tears to well up in my eyes. Auntie Violet just sort of papered over the whole thing, you know, and just sort of said, "Oh yeah, these guts, they done half pen and ink, don't they, Rick?" And I said, "Yes, they do." And I staggered backwards to where Monty was, the only other living creature that I could find solace from. But through my tears, I could see that Monty was in distress as well. He was sat on his perch, poor little thing. When I last checked on him, he was all fluffed up and, you know, chattering away. He was thin as a rake, and he had his head sort of like tilted upwards, and he was just spitting through his nose like budgies do. I don't know if you ever heard that, but they just sort of go. He too was in distress. Okay, he could not get fresh air. So he was leaning backwards and leaning backwards, and his little wings were coming out because he was feeling himself sort of like losing control. And that was it. He just went. He fell off his perch, backwards off his perch, and hit the deck, hit the sand at the bottom of his cage. And he was so shocked by what had happened. I sort of peered into the cage as I too was reeling. And his left wing was out, still trying to fly, and his right wing was sort of steadying himself because his legs had given way. Luckily, at that point, he realised that there was some fresh air at the bottom of the cage, and he managed to sort of shallowly sort of breathe some in, but he wasn't trusting what he was breathing. And at that point, I kind of felt like a bit of a soldier, you know, in combat. You know, just seeing one of my buddies sort of struck down by a bit of shrapnel, and I was just checking that he was okay. We both looked at each other, and I think, you know, we bonded on a different level at that point, human and avian, and I sort of thought, well, he's okay. I'm gonna leg it outside. So I just sort of snuck out through the slightly ajar kitchen door which led to the garden, and I managed to get some fresh air. And at that point, you know, after I'd had a couple of gasps of good fresh air and I was feeling reasonably okay, but still in shock, to be honest, I sort of looked up and I could see little Monty sort of deciding to climb back up to his perch. And normally, when you know, parrots or budgerigars or parakeets, when they climb up their cage, they sort of they put one foot out on the bars and then they use their beak and they sort of clamber up like this. And it's quite a speedy affair because they know where they want to go and they don't waste any time. They're not hanging about. But on this instance, no. He literally took a couple of steps, and then, you know, he would hang there and just sort of like look around. You know, he just didn't trust his environment anymore. You know, the cage was his home, his safe place, his sanctuary. But he was looking for this secret, unseen assassin. You know. And it took him quite a while, gingerly, to get back up to his perch. And once he did, he didn't sort of like strut up and down it like he normally did. He just stayed in the far left-hand corner, as far away from Auntie Violet as he possibly could. He was hugging the bars. And again, he was still as thin as a rake, just hugging the bars, looking around. And occasionally he'd open his beak as if to say, someone just punched me? What just happened? I don't know. And then just the odd spit, as if to say, it's gone. I'm sure it's gone. Maybe it hasn't. He wasn't sure. I wasn't sure. Our whole world had been turned upside down. And Auntie Violet just continued to scrape off the scales off the next fish that she got, completely oblivious to the human and avian carnage she created behind her. It took a while, but after about 30 minutes or so, I was able to make a cup of tea and put the whole episode behind me. But I've never forgotten it. And I've never forgotten the details of it. I didn't think it was possible for the human body to make A, such a noise, and B, create such an environmental hazard. You panic, to be quite honest. If you're there as a bystander, you panic. You don't know whether to say anything, whether to acknowledge it, whether to ask if they're okay, whether to phone the World Health Organization or the police. You just don't know. You just really don't know. So I think this scale is going to be useful to us so that we can categorize these things and speak of the things that have as yet remained unspoken. And I think, you know, I think the world is going to be a better place if we can share this information accurately and not leave it to, you know, being a tall tale that, oh no, it wasn't that bad. It really was a Dizzy Gillespie, or it really was an angry tuba, or it was only a sad trumpet. So I hope that's of use to you. This is the first part of a two-parter. You may notice an edit in this particular one. That's because I didn't have enough time on the camera to record this, so I'm going to have to cut a few bits out. So as I said at the beginning, if you want to tell a story, please get in touch and you know, I'll shoot it for you, not a problem. And that is the first half of an absolutely... And hopefully I'll see you next time for the second half of that one particular day. Until then.